It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when I received the envelope. The sound of raindrops tapping against my window provided an eerie soundtrack to my day as I shuffled through the mundane mail that arrived. Bills, advertisements, and the occasional piece of junk. But the envelope was different. It was thick, embossed with elegant gold lettering that read, "You are cordially invited," in a way that felt both familiar and unsettling. I turned the envelope over, and my heart raced as I saw the sender's name. Evelyn Sinclair. A name I hadn't heard in over a decade. A name that brought back a wave of memories I had long tried to forget. Evelyn and I had been inseparable in our high school years. We were the kind of friends who swore we would stay close forever, sharing secrets and dreams under the stars. But life, as it often does, took us in different directions. After a particularly traumatic incident during our senior year, our friendship fractured. I never thought I would hear from her again. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and pulled out a beautifully designed card. The invitation was for a reunion, a gathering of our old friends at the Sinclair family estate. The date was set for the following Saturday. A wave of emotions washed over me. Excitement, fear, and an inexplicable urge to know what had brought Evelyn to reach out after all these years. The days leading up to the reunion were a whirlwind of thoughts. Should I go? Would it be awkward? What if she was still angry with me for what had happened? As I wrestled with these questions, I couldn't shake the feeling that this invitation was more than just a simple reunion. There was something lurking beneath the surface, something dark and unresolved. Finally, Saturday arrived. I dressed carefully, opting for a simple yet elegant outfit that made me feel comfortable. As I drove through the rain-soaked streets towards the Sinclair estate, memories flooded back. Images of laughter and innocence mingled with the shadows of betrayal and hurt. The Sinclair estate stood at the end of a long, winding road, its grandeur still evident even in the dreary weather. The house was an old Victorian, complete with a wraparound porch and a towering set of front doors. As I parked my car, I took a moment to absorb the place. The overgrown garden felt both enchanting and ominous. The rain had lessened, creating a mist that clung to the air, adding to the ethereal quality of the setting. I stepped out of the car and walked toward the entrance, my heart pounding. Each step felt heavier as I approached the massive doors. With a deep breath, I pushed them open and stepped inside. The interior was just as I remembered. Rich wood paneling, a grand staircase, and an overwhelming sense of nostalgia. A few familiar faces greeted me in the spacious foyer, their smiles filled with warmth but tinged with an undercurrent of tension. I exchanged pleasantries, but my mind was elsewhere, scanning the crowd for Evelyn. And then I saw her. She was standing near the fireplace, a striking figure in a deep green dress that accentuated her features. Her hair had grown longer, framing her face in soft waves. As our eyes met, a mix of emotions flashed across her face. Surprise, joy, and something darker that I couldn't quite place. "Sarah," she said, her voice soft yet steady as she approached me. "I'm so glad you came." "Of course," I replied, forcing a smile despite the turmoil churning inside me. "It's been a while." "Yes, it has," she said, her gaze lingering on me. There was an intensity in her eyes that made me uneasy. I wanted to gather everyone to talk about the past. A chill ran down my spine. The past. The incident that had torn us apart hovered in the air like a specter, unspoken yet omnipresent. The room filled with laughter as others joined us, but the atmosphere felt thick with unacknowledged tension. As the evening wore on, we mingled and shared stories, laughter echoing against the walls. Yet each time I caught Evelyn's gaze, I felt the weight of the unspoken words between us. Eventually, as the night deepened, she called for everyone's attention. "I'm so glad you all could make it tonight," she began, her voice firm yet vulnerable. "This reunion isn't just about reconnecting. It's about facing the things we've buried." A murmur rippled through the crowd as she continued. "We can't move forward without confronting the past. My heart raced as I exchanged nervous glances with others. "Evelyn, what do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaky. She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I'm talking about what happened with Jason." The room fell silent, the mention of Jason hanging heavy in the air. He had been a mutual friend, a popular athlete with an infectious smile. But the night of the incident was etched in my memory, an accident that had spiraled out of control and left scars on all of us. "I wanted to talk about the truth," Evelyn continued, her voice steady despite the turmoil swirling around us. "There's so much we never said, and I think it's time to face it." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. This was exactly what I had feared. Confrontation. "Evelyn, maybe we should just enjoy the evening and leave the past in the past," I suggested weakly. "No, Sarah," she said, her gaze unwavering. "We can't keep ignoring it. Not anymore." The tension in the room grew palpable. Faces shifted uncomfortably as everyone exchanged glances. "What do you want to say?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I want us to acknowledge what happened that night," she replied, her voice tinged with pain. "The truth about Jason's death." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and I felt the walls closing in on me. Memories surged back. Jason's laughter, the party, the accident. It was all so vivid, so real, yet so buried. "He was drunk," I said, my voice trembling. "We all were. It was an accident." "But it wasn't just an accident," Evelyn insisted, her voice rising slightly. "We made choices that night, choices that cost him his life." The weight of her words hung in the air, heavy with the truth we had all tried to evade. "We were young," I defended weakly. "We didn't know." "Exactly, we didn't know," she cut in, her voice raw with emotion. "But we have to face the reality of what happened. We can't keep running away from it." Tears threatened to spill as I wrestled with the memory of that night. I could still see Jason's face, hear his laughter. I could still feel the guilt that had lingered like a dark cloud over our friendship ever since. Evelyn took a step closer, her expression softening. "I'm not blaming anyone. I just want us to understand how the choices we make can have devastating consequences." "Do you think we could have stopped him?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Could we have saved him?" "I don't know," she replied, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But we can't keep pretending that night didn't happen. We owe it to him to remember." The room fell into a heavy silence as everyone absorbed her words. I glanced around, seeing the pain etched on their faces, the shared guilt and regret that had bound us together in our silence. I didn't know how to cope with it, I finally admitted, my voice barely a whisper. "I buried it. I thought if I didn't talk about it, it would go away." Evelyn nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Me too. But it didn't go away. It haunted me." The weight of the unspoken truth hung heavily in the air. But in that moment, I felt a flicker of relief. We were finally confronting the past, no longer hiding from the shadows that had loomed over us for so long. "I'm sorry, Evelyn," I said, my voice cracking. "I'm so sorry for everything." Her eyes met mine, and I could see the pain reflected in them, but also a glimmer of understanding. "We all made mistakes, Sarah, but we can't let them define us." As the night wore on, we shared stories about Jason. His laughter, his kindness, the light he had brought into our lives. It felt cathartic to finally acknowledge the pain we had buried for so long, to remember him not just for the tragedy but for the joy he had given us. When the evening finally came to a close, I felt lighter, as though a weight had been lifted. Evelyn and I embraced, and in that moment, I felt the bond of our friendship slowly beginning to mend. As I drove home, the rain had stopped, and the moonlight bathed the streets in a soft glow. The memories of that night lingered in my mind, but I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. We had faced the past together, no longer shackled by our guilt and regret. The road ahead would still be challenging, but I felt hopeful. In acknowledging our shared history, we had taken the first steps toward healing. The invitation had brought me back, not just to the Sinclair estate, but to the part of myself I had lost along the way. I realized that sometimes, facing the truth can be the most powerful act of all, a way to reclaim the joy we thought was lost forever.